Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Herd, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the OnFARM Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful. Hello, welcome to the latest edition of OnFARM Scotland. I'm Anna Davis, and this time we are in rural Aberdeenshire with Ed Smith. Ed is from Norvite, who are specialists in animal nutrition. Norvite have a really positive story to tell, all about the development of their new cattle feed product, NEOLac. NEOLac replaces soya and controversial palm oil products, which are often imported from places like South America and Indonesia, with cold-pressed rapeseed oil, which is all grown by farmers within just a few miles of this very plant. NEOLac is a brilliant Scottish sustainability success story. Oh gosh, a bit of a tongue twister there. And Ed took time out to show me how it's produced, starting with the very moment the lorry load of oilseed rape first arrives at the plant.
So we keep a sample of every load that's delivered.
Yeah, so here we are, the very beginning. Those are the little black
seeds.
Rape seeds. Yeah.
It comes with a approximate analysis, so we know the moisture content, the oil content, the protein content, and the ash content before it arrives. We do a further physical inspection. We're looking for as clean a sample of black seeds without any red seeds, which would tend to indicate that it's been harvested a little immature.
Well, to the uninitiated eye, it looks pretty good.
Yeah. The seed arrives and we tip it in here. This is a covered floor-level pit.
It's kind of like a variation of a cattle grid to look at. Everything can fall through and get directed straight into the mill.
Lorries come with a grain sock, so there's very little, there's no spillage. It's conveyed immediately out into the silo outside, which holds 150 tonnes. Would you like to see it?
Yes, please. So we're going outside, still spitting with rain, but there's some blue sky, and we're standing next to the enormous silver silo. Ed, you were saying that there's an automatic process that transports it from when the lorries dump it down there into the silo.
Yeah, so it goes, this is basically where we have our raw seed supply on site. You switch on the intake system and it's conveyed and elevated up into the silo. The plant itself has separate day bins which automatically fill.
You can smell the oil, and it's I would say it's got a slightly sweeter smell than normally I'd associate with rapeseed oil. It's lovely. It's really lovely. I can now see a mini conveyor belt going, which I presume is how the oilseed rape gets into this building.
Yeah, so if you look above the presses, we've got 3 presses. Each have a capacity of 500 kilos an hour. The bins above hold 6 tonnes of seed, so enough for approximately 12 hours. And they fill automatically, so when the bottom probe says the bin's empty, it switches on an automatic refilling system, which takes the seed out of the silo, through a sieve, and up into the bin above. It all runs through gravity into the press. The vast majority, if not all, of the rape meal that is available for UK animal feed is produced in plants where they use a solvent extraction method. They break the seed and boil it with a hexane, which drives off the oil. It acts as a solvent to drive the oil out of the meal. It's got almost no oil left in it. Our process is a mechanical extraction. We actually use pressure to crush and burst the seeds to force the oil out of the seeds which means we leave about 12% oil in the meal. Basically, the seed falls in here. It goes in through a magnet. You know, the last thing we want is any metal in there.
Oh, I see, of course.
That little screw conveyor just slowly encourages it along.
Right.
Where it falls into the capture hoppers underneath. You get the meal coming off this side of the presses, which falls onto the 3 conveyor belts, which takes it away into the blending plant. And the oil is captured in these stainless steel vessels along here, which also have probes on. When they get to a certain height, it opens a valve at the bottom and pumps the oil away into the crude oil tank, ready for filtration. This is actually about as noisy as it gets.
Is it? Yeah. How long ago was it that you installed all of this? How long is it since you started using rapeseed?
Towards the end of 2015 when we first started crushing.
Yeah.
We started with 1 press, but we built the plant to accommodate 3. We've just added additional machines, just literally lifted them onto the platform into place because these are quite expensive. This is the Neo Pro, which is the meal straight off the press. We've taken the seed, we've crushed it, and we get 2/3 of this and 1/3 of oil.
This is almost slaty and flaky, huge flakes of meal with an almost leathery texture, but crumbly at the same time.
The cold pressing process produces a flake, the meal in a flake form. That's 30% protein, 12 to 14% oil. So whilst it doesn't look oily, the oil is still, encapsulated within the matrix of the meal.
Oh, I see. Yes, it does look very dry and quite crumbly.
Looks quite dry, but when you analyse it, it's actually quite oily. It's worth more nutritionally because it's got that extra energy content.
So the fact that you've got higher nutritional value left in that meal, what benefit does that deliver on a dairy farm then?
Okay, so in a high-yielding dairy cow, particularly in early lactation, when intake is the limiting factor, they need to use very nutrient-dense ingredients to enable the cow to produce an enormous amount of milk that she starts producing straight away. That's really where we get the benefit. This is the highest energy ingredient that we have.
Yeah.
It's about 15 megajoules per kilogram of dry matter. There isn't any other ingredients that offer that level of energy content apart from when you look at pure fats.
Yes, yeah. And high-yielding animals in particular are monitored so carefully through robotic systems, for example, that it's easy to monitor that yield and see the knock-on benefit.
Yeah. And if you can't feed the cow enough energy, she will strip it off her own back.
Yeah.
Which leads to problems with getting back into calf and all that type of stuff. So
yes, absolutely.
It's really key to produce a diet that is meeting her nutritional requirements.
I can see a huge number of different Norvite blends as you can picture the white sacks that you would imagine seed and fertiliser to be stored in. And then as I look to the other side of the shed, I can see about 6 or 7 different compartments with concrete panels, each containing a different ingredient by the look of things, and a really large tractor just heading right for us at the moment.
Don't worry, we've got the high vis on. Yeah,
quite safe.
Even though it's raining, we're in the middle of a normal harvest in Aberdeenshire. We've got, I think, barley here coming from over near New Deer, straight off the combine from yesterday, which was actually quite a nice day for combining.
So we're just moving from one shed into the next one. It's similar, but on maybe an even larger scale, and the bays are bigger, the pile of meal is bigger, and as you can hear, the noises are increasing as well, so we'll find out round the corner why that is.
We're busy crushing barley over there. We mix feed in this machine here in 8-ton batches. Quite a simple operation, really. We use up to 10 different ingredients, a lot of them locally produced. So we've got sugar beet, oats, distiller's grains from Strathclyde. This is wheat feed from Kirkcaldy. We do have 1 or 2 more exotic ingredients like flake maize and peas, which we get from Yorkshire, and molasses, which goes on everything. And obviously minerals that we manufacture over at Inch incorporated into all of the feeds that we make. So this is oats. Oats are starting to get a little bit harder to come by for animal feed. They're having a major renaissance in the human food market.
Yes.
So for making into animal feed, we tend to get the ones that aren't quite good enough to make flaked oats for human food. We think they're a great ingredient. We don't need to process them. We use them mostly in sheep feeds and lamb feeds, and actually oats, or corn as it is called in the northeast of Scotland, was the mainstay of sheep feed historically, and not actually many other companies that use oats in their feed, but we do, and they look fantastic in our blends. This is pretty much, there's actually two sources of distillers' grains left in Scotland now. One is from the North British distillery in Edinburgh. These are from the Strathclyde distillery. They're getting very expensive because they're quite rare. But they're a lovely product. They're actually made from the distillation of wheat to make spirit.
And they're a paler but larger version of the sugar beet pellets.
Which is the...
I don't know what that noise is, but is he emptying something?
He's just making sure the bin's empty.
Definitely empty now, I think.
Yeah.
It strikes me that everything that we've looked at comes from fairly close by, and I would think that that's one of the philosophies and the ethos behind the Norvite business. Would that be true, and can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, very much so. We have always endeavoured to produce feed that's made with locally sourced ingredients wherever we can. Obviously the rape meal is the NEOPro is produced very, very locally.
So the NEOLac is we've talked about how it's so crucial for sustainability as well as for very many other reasons, and you work with local farmers who are all close by to produce that rapeseed for you, oilseed rape.
Yeah.
The alternative to rapeseed meal is soybean meal, which we've discussed. That was previously coming from where exactly?
Soya is either from North or South America. You can also buy maize gluten meal, usually from North America. Sunflower extract, which comes from Europe or Eastern Europe. Palm kernel, which comes from Indonesia or Malaysia.
Gosh, yeah.
So look on the ingredient list from companies that are making feeds where they're located near ports, and they'll tend to use a basket of imported products from all over the place.
But contrast that with the 15-mile radius that all of your rapeseed comes from. Ed, we've literally seen tractors coming in with deliveries. We've seen your storage facilities. We've seen the press. Can you now show us the finished NEOLac product?
Yep, it's just outside.
Excellent, thank you.
Are you superstitious?
My mum would be, but I'm not.
You're not. Right, okay, we go. That one then. This is NEOPro.
This is NEOPro,
and
yes.
This is NEOLac.
From a distance it looks like tiny slate flakes, but obviously when you get up closer you can see it's got a much more of a greeny colour to it, almost flecky, green and black flecky. And if you've ever used rapeseed oil in cooking, there's a definite resemblance from the smell. They're not the same, but there's a definite resemblance. I think you would identify the rapeseed oil within there. So
the process that we use obviously breaks down the larger flakes into more of a crumble without turning it into a powder. So it's easy to handle, should flow well out of a bin without breaking into a meal where it falls through the TMR, typically fed as part of a TMR ration. And if you have very mealy ingredients, they tend to fall to the bottom in a regular quantity. So it stays mixed in with the ration. Else, so this pile, this is ready to go, as it were. That's ready to go. Yeah. This is OnFARM Scotland, where we showcase the very best of food and rural business. I'm Anna, and I hope you're enjoying being with us so far. We've just been hearing from Ed Smith from Norvite, who's taken us around the production plant where he cold presses locally produced oilseed rape and other ingredients to make his NEOLac animal feed. We also spent some time in Ed's office, away from the loud machinery, and Ed told us how his Norvite journey began. I'm from a family farm in North Yorkshire, My first job, once I'd done a few years of travelling, was as a nutritionist at a company called Farmway in Darlington, a cooperative, where I worked for 3 years before I was offered a job up here with Norvite. After a few years, I progressed through the business to some extent. We managed to get the opportunity to do a management buyout in 2005. We've added a retail business, mobile milling, additional blending plants, in addition to our core business, which is manufacture of mineral supplements. So, yeah, in the last 14 years, goodness me, we have trebled in size. So we're up to about 75 staff.
Would you say that the management buyout was driven by your passion for the nutrition side of the business rather than your desire to run a company?
I think it's probably a bit of both. In large part, it was a desire to be kind of self-employed. I've felt very fulfilled once I got into that position.
Yes, and you've obviously stayed extremely hands-on in terms of the product development and nutrition side of things. So that presumably is a conscious choice because that's what you love.
Well, very much so, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of companies are run by accountants these days. Our company is run by a nutritionist, which is, seems obvious because we're an animal nutrition company, but it's very often not the case. We're very passionate about making a difference, helping our customers to improve what they're doing at a technical level. And we hope that generates loyalty, which demonstrably it has.
It has done. And do you work with a cooperative of local farmers? Do you organise haulage or do they have to arrange delivery?
The supply chain is quite key, actually. One of the idiosyncrasies of our particular method of crushing and particularly of filtration is that we have to have the seed at a very consistent moisture content. And so we got in touch with a local cooperative called Aberdeen Grain, which has a large store about 6 miles away from here. They have approximately 42 or 43 farmers who store their oilseed rape, around about 6,000 or 7,000 tonnes that they store there. And so we got a secure store of seed which is 6 miles away, which is grown in about a 10 or 15 mile radius of the store. So it's like probably the shortest supply chain you can ever imagine.
Fantastic story, isn't it?
Compared to hauling oil from the other end of the UK. But I probably would stress that our product is not more expensive than soya. Soya being the major protein used worldwide, tends to be the benchmark price for protein. So our product has to reflect that value. The major benefit, though, in using NEOLac, you not only can replace the soya that people are using on a kilo for kilo basis, but you also almost get free of charge 120 grams of protected fat or oil. Protected fat is also an important ingredient in dairy rations, particularly for cows in early lactation where they're in an energy deficit. And traditionally, they have used palm fat. And as we know, that is also a major no-no because it tends to be grown in tropical regions where they're removing natural rainforest to grow ever-increasing amounts of palm fat. Much more than soya, the supermarkets and the retailers are putting pressure on their supply chains to remove palm fat from not only from animal feeds but also from food products as well.
I think what I also love about it is that it's a story of the Scottish farming industry working together as well. You're working with a cooperative of arable farmers to produce a product that's perfect for the dairy sector.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that we really like about it. I have to say it's a really positive story, not only for the northeast of Scotland, but for the wider Scottish market. We just hope that people will recognise that and support us.
But Ed's well aware that hope is not enough for farmers to change their tried and tested routines, especially when working to tight margins. No, evidence is what's required. So Ed worked with Kerry Cartwright, a final year honours student from SRUC, Scotland's Rural College, to carry out a rigorous trial, with some of the cattle getting fed NEOLac and others getting traditional soya-based feed.
It was over a long period of time where we did a crossover trial from the soya diet to the rape diet and back onto the soya diet. Yeah, it's really good to have those numbers, because we're not into doing things on an anecdotal basis either.
Absolutely.
It's very important for us to have the confidence to take this out to the marketplace. The college themselves were very much involved in the scientific design of it. The statistics have been really thoroughly interrogated. The data is irrefutable.
The researcher Kerry Cartwright, who led on the trials, unfortunately too busy to speak to us in this episode, but we felt she definitely deserved a name check as she's such a vital part of the NEOLac story. However, while we'll have to catch up with Kerry on another occasion, the last part of this edition of OnFARM Scotland takes us to the farm where the trial took place. Dairy farmer Bruce Mackie agreed to test out NEOLac on his dairy herd near Peterhead. The results were very positive, and it's fair to say he's never looked back. We are at Middleton of Rora, which is Rora Dairies, and they produce an extremely delicious yoghurt that I think if you're lucky you'll find it in Morrison's and a number of other independent outlets. The most important thing is that they feed their cows NEOLac. So thank you very much for having us.
How are you doing?
Good.
Sorry we're a little bit later than planned, but we got really carried away. We had a fascinating time at the plant. Ed and Bruce have known each other for a long time, I think, so it would be great to hear them chatting about the working relationship that they've now formed. So Bruce, we're standing here next to cow number 2458, and you've got some wonderfully smelling silage in your hand. Can you explain how that forms part of the diet?
Yes, silage, to people that aren't farmers about it, we harvest grass and we compress it in a big pit and add a bacteria to it so it then pickles itself. So it's effectively like preserving something in vinegar. So that gives us feed throughout the year for the cows, and able to preserve some of that spring freshness of the grass. What we're looking at now is what we call a partial mixed ration, a PMR, which we feed to the cows along the feed phase. In addition to the silage, we've added draff, which is a distillery byproduct, and also to that we've added some barley that we've grown on the farm, some minerals and vitamins supplied by Ed, and the NEOLac itself. So that's all fed in a single meal package there to the cows.
So Bruce, we're in the robotic parlour at the moment. We've got a little face peeping in. She might be about to come in and get milked. Here we go.
Now, here we go. So the robot's identified the cow, and the first thing it does is it washes each individual teat twice. What we're doing here is we're watching two counter-rotating, so circular brushes, going around and cleaning each teat in turn. So just going around there. The cows are bedded on sand, and I think that's part of the thing, keeping the udder really clean, and that greatly helps. Now the brushes have gone to the side. We're now watching a little red line of a laser just going across the udder at the moment and finding the teats. So the robots run 24 hours a day, or nearly that. They wash themselves 3 times within that period. But other than that, the cows have sort of free access to come in day and night. And now all, 3 out of the 4 teats are now connected, and the cow is milking.
And how long would she normally be there each time she came in?
Could be here about 5 minutes.
She certainly looks extremely content.
This system depends on the cows coming in themselves, and if they weren't content, they wouldn't come in, would be the reality.
You produce yoghurt from this milk, as we've mentioned. Who's the biggest customer of that yoghurt?
We have a number of different customers. Furthest north is the Northlink ferries that go from Aberdeen to Orkney and Shetland, and we have a few distributors who take it down south. Farm shops and delis are a big market.
Yes, and would you say that those customers are showing an increased interest in your sustainability and your carbon footprint, and therefore the inputs on this farm?
We're beginning to see more and more of that. I mean, the first thing is you've got to produce a delicious product.
Yes, of course, yeah.
But then those other things become more important. That's the exciting thing is that, we're a new brand. So, those are the things that we can be because we're new. We haven't any inherited baggage on the, on the back of there.
Forge your own path.
But also, the yogurt sector is quite a crowded one. And, how do you differentiate yourself? And part of that thing about being open and showing people their cows and welcoming people on farm, and not only just to see the cows, but in terms of the wildlife and the conservation measures we do, it's all part of that package, and you get that free with every pot of yogurt.
Absolutely.
Let's go up onto the gantry overlooking the dairy.
I've never actually done this on a dairy farm before, in terms of standing on an elevated platform. So we've got an overview of more than 200 animals, some of whom are lying down looking very relaxed, some of whom are queuing to get into the robotic milking parlour. It must be quite useful, this, Bruce, to get a clear sight of exactly what's going on and who's doing what. Is that why it's here?
Partly. We're standing on top of one of the robots at the moment on a platform here with our office just next door. It's certainly been an advantage in moving into a purpose-built building with all our milking cows under one roof. Previously, when my father expanded the herd, it was through a range of traditional buildings, and he would have filled in the gaps between buildings with other ones. But it allowed for lots of little dark holes for cows to hide and not so easily seen. The history of this shed is that we built it about 5 years ago with advice from Vetvice, a Dutch cow welfare consultants who have a program called Cow Signals. So Cow Signals was developed by Joop Driessen and Jan Hulsen, these two Dutch vets who thought that they were going as vets to too many farms where they were seeing sick cows, and what they really wanted to do was to get to be in sort of the forefront of preventative medicine, really, I suppose. You created an environment and you taught farmers how to look at cows before they became ill rather than afterwards. The first time I heard of Cow Signals, I thought it was a little bit kind of airy-fairy, and I must admit, subsequent to that, I've become a bit of a convert to the whole thing. But one of the things that they felt was that too many sheds were being built by people who knew about concrete and steel and not enough about cows. So they hired 2 more vets just to do building design for dairies. And so we got one of them over here, and we looked at different designs and such like. What we have here is a Cow Signals design shed. And
the roof itself is something that's quite unusual. I can best describe it as a sort of tiered roof, obviously with ventilation at each level, but it is quite unusual.
Yes, part of the discussion of the sort of evolution of the design of the shed was a discussion with Jamie Robertson at Aberdeen University. He said it was very difficult to get enough ventilation across a shed that was 40 metres wide, which this one is 41 metres wide. Part of that is to provide a light, airy environment for the cows so to thrive in, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've highlighted, Bruce, a number of the different aspects required to maintain optimal animal health. And of course, one of the most obvious ones is feed. And I know that you were the trial farm for the initial testing of NEOLac. Can you tell us a bit about how you got involved in that and why, what your motivation was?
I think, the motivation was, well, one, at a most basic level, we have a shed here which is a mirror image on one side and the other, and so it lends itself to doing trial work in it. And very similar cows. And also the robots have so many different parameters that we can measure in terms of weight, in terms of their production and such like. It's a very controlled environment in terms of that, and therefore I thought we could help to provide statistical reliability and such like. And obviously, Norvite's a local company to here, and we're very keen to work with our neighbours and farm together.
We've spoken with Ed about sustainability and the wonderful local supply that he has. All of the oilseed rape for the NEOLac comes from within 15 miles. So there's a hugely strong sustainability story there. Did that factor in to your reasoning as well?
Absolutely. And if you look out of the building here, you can see that we've planted hedges along there. And then as we look down towards the River Yugi in the distance there, you can see little bits of woodland and full of native trees and things. So the environment's very important about what we do here on the farm in terms of environmental improvement and things like creating wildlife corridors so that we can link small areas of habitat to the river. But I think as well as thinking about the environment on the farm, the environmental impact of how we buy in our inputs and things is also important to give a complete picture on that. We want to be producing a product which is healthy, that has been sourced environmentally, and soya is not the solution. The other thing is that many diets might have an element of palm oil in them, and we know that our customers as farmers include people like Marks and Spencer's in Iceland, who've been very strong in taking palm oil out of what they're doing. And this is absolutely correct. There's an absurdity to the fact that rainforest and orangutan habitat might be destroyed for something that actually we can produce here, that should be produced from grass and what we can grow on the farm. And therefore, that's what was really a driving force in doing the trial with the NEOLac, to see if we can make our production more sustainable.
I think it might be great to bring Ed into the conversation now, and he believes that times are changing and that the sustainability thing is very much at the forefront, but actually will continue to be so, whereas perhaps some milk buyers at the moment don't place it at the top of their priority list. That is changing, and that therefore more and more people will need to look at using a local Scottish grown alternative.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's clear that this is the direction of travel in the whole food supply sector. I hope that we can let more people know that we do have a locally made alternative available now.
The other bit that we haven't mentioned so far, but that's also very important for us farmers, is that we're at the moment at a point of really tight margins within the dairy industry. Here's a product which is competitive on price, so it does a good job, it has the same nutritional benefit, and it's not costing us any more, so there is no excuse. I'm sort of mindful of a neighbour of mine who was asking how the dairy was doing up here and things, and I was saying it's not the easiest at the moment with milk price and such like. There are different challenges. His comment was that tough times make for better farmers. It means that we have to go and search out, new ways of doing things and better ways of doing things. That impetus, means that you have to work with people who can work with, develop new solutions, better solutions to problems, in order for our businesses to go on.
So Bruce, thank you very much for hosting us today. We're going to finish off the episode now just with some final thoughts. I'd love just to hear from you how you believe this relationship between Rora Dairies and Norvite is forging a path and inspiring other people within the farming sector.
Well, I think as we move forward, these relationships are going to have to become stronger with all our suppliers, and using those technical skills to give us a competitive advantage. And our relationship with Norvite is part of that.
So probably build on Bruce's anecdote. There's one I remember from someone who will be very well known to Bruce, the late great Maitland Mackie, who said, "No change, no chance." That's really, I think, sums it up. We're delighted that Bruce gave us a chance to show what NEOLac could do for his herd. The trial work was hard work for them, I know that, but I hope that they were glad and thought the effort was worth it, and we look forward to the opportunity to work with other similar-minded dairy farmers around the country.
Huge thanks to Ed Smith from Norvite and Bruce Mackie at Rora Dairy for taking time out of their busy working lives to speak with us. And thank you for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. You can find the OnFARM Scotland, that's everything food, agriculture and rural matters in Scotland, or FARM for short, wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to showcase your rural business in OnFARM Scotland, email me at anna@sceneandherdpr.co.uk. Take care and see you next time.